Right now, 12,000 satellites are orbiting Earth. They run your GPS, your internet, your credit card transactions, military communications, and basically everything that makes modern civilization function. And they're under attack. Every single day. Not with missiles, yet, but with lasers, cyber attacks, jamming signals, and weapons you've never heard of. China just demonstrated they can grab satellites out of orbit with a robotic arm. Russia's allegedly developing a space nuke, and the US just awarded SpaceX a $1.8 billion contract to build a spy satellite swarm. This isn't science fiction. This is happening right now. And the craziest part? Nobody's talking about the economics of this. Because space war isn't just about military dominance. It's about controlling a $2 trillion industry. It's about who gets rich building the weapons, who profits from the defense contracts, and what happens to your money when GPS goes dark and crashes the global economy. Today, I'm showing you the money behind the space war that's already begun. Hey everyone, welcome back to Capital and Power. I'm your host, and today we're following the money into space, specifically into the military space race that's heating up between the US, China, and Russia. Your competitor probably showed you the cool weapons and the tech, and yeah, that stuff's wild. But here's what they're not telling you. This is a massive economic story. We're talking about $224 billion in global space economy revenue 2023, projected to hit $1.8 trillion by 2035. SpaceX valued at $350 billion, making Elon the richest person ever. Defense contractors making bank on classified satellite programs. Your portfolio exposed to space war risk through tech stocks. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the space economy is exploding right now, who's making billions from military space contracts, what happens to your money if space infrastructure gets destroyed, how GPS alone supports $1.4 trillion in U.S. economic activity annually, and which companies are positioned to profit from this arms race. If you want content that follows the money and shows you who's really winning in geopolitics, hit that subscribe button. We don't do surface-level tech demos. We show you the economics. All right, let's dive in. Why space suddenly matters to your wallet? Let's start with a number that should blow your mind. $1.4 trillion. That's how much economic activity in the United States alone depends on GPS. Not space in general, just GPS, one satellite constellation. Think about it. Every Uber ride, GPS. Every food delivery, GPS. Every Amazon package, GPS. Agricultural equipment, GPS guided. Shipping and logistics, GPS dependent. Financial transaction timestamps, GPS synchronized. Power grid coordination, GPS timed. If GPS went dark tomorrow, the U.S. economy would lose an estimated $1 billion per day. And GPS is just one of many critical satellite systems. The economics of the launch revolution. So why is everyone rushing into space now? Because the cost of getting there just collapsed. $65,000 per kilogram to launch something into space. 2024, $1,500 per kilogram, SpaceX Falcon 9. That's a 97% cost reduction in 24 years. This is what economists call a phase change, when something becomes so much cheaper that it unlocks entirely new markets. And guess who's profiting? SpaceX. $350 billion valuation, $4 billion in revenue 2023, 80% of global launch market share, Starlink generating $4.2 billion annually, Pentagon contracts worth billions. Elon Musk became the richest person on Earth largely because he figured out how to make space cheap. But he's not alone. The space defense contractor boom.
Traditional defense giants are pivoting hard into space. Lockheed Martin, $3.2 billion in space revenue 2023. Northrop Grumman, $2.8 billion in space contracts. Boeing, $2.1 billion in satellite systems. Raytheon, $1.7 billion in space defense.
And new players are emerging. Rocket Lab, $1.8 billion valuation, small satellite launchers. Planet Labs, $1.5 billion, satellite imagery. Maxar Technologies, acquired for $6.4 billion, spy satellites. This is a gold rush, and the gold is military contracts.
Let's talk about where your tax dollars are going. U.S. Space Force Budget 2024, $29.4 billion. That's more than NASA's budget. Think about that. We're spending more on military space than civilian space exploration.
Where's that money going? Classified satellite programs, $10+ billion. We don't even know the exact number. It's classified. SpaceX National Reconnaissance Office contract, $1.8 billion. Building a swarm of hundreds of spy satellites. Can track any target on Earth in real time. Feeds into AI-powered targeting systems.
Northrop Grumman Missile Warning System, $2.4 billion. Next-gen satellite constellation. Detects missile launches globally. Replaces aging Cold War infrastructure. L3 Harris OPR, Overhead Persistent Infrared, $2.9 billion. Detects heat signatures from space. Tracks hypersonic missiles, critical for early warning.
Here's where it gets really interesting financially. Starlink, Elon's internet satellite constellation, was sold to consumers as internet for rural areas. But guess who's the biggest customer? The U.S. military. Pentagon's Starlink contracts, $70 million for Ukraine battlefield communications, $15 million for U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, undisclosed contracts for classified operations.
And this creates a huge competitive moat for SpaceX. Builds satellites for consumers, Starlink. Government subsidizes through military contracts. Data and infrastructure serve dual purposes. Competitors can't compete without military backing. This is vertical integration meets military-industrial complex. China's space budget, the real numbers. China doesn't publish exact military space spending, but analysts estimate $12 to $15 billion annually on military space programs. And they're catching up fast. 200+ satellites launched in 2023. Beidou GPS alternative fully operational. Anti-satellite weapons tested successfully. Space station operational. U.S. banned them from ISS. The economic strategy is clear. Break U.S. space dominance equals break U.S. military advantage equals shift global economic power.
The $1.4 trillion GPS collapse scenario. Let's game out what happens if a major space conflict actually breaks out. Day 1. GPS goes dark. China or Russia takes out U.S. GPS satellites. They've already demonstrated this capability with anti-satellite missiles. Immediate economic impact. Shipping halts, can't navigate without GPS. Airlines grounded, GPS required for precision approaches. Uber, Lyft delivery apps stop working. ATMs can't timestamp transactions, fraud prevention fails. Power grids lose synchronization, rolling blackouts. Agricultural equipment stops, farmers can't plant or harvest efficiently.
Estimated loss, $1 billion per day. Week 1, financial markets panic. Stock markets crash. Uncertainty equals sell-off. Tech stocks hammered, rely on satellite data. Defense stocks surge. contracts incoming. Supply chain disruptions equals inflation spike. Month 1, recession begins. Consumer spending collapses. Business investment freezes. Unemployment spikes. Fed forced to intervene. And this is just from GPS. Imagine if communication satellites, spy satellites, and weather satellites also get taken out.
The defense surge. But here's the cynical part. Some people would make a fortune. Look at what happened when Russia invaded Ukraine. Lockheed Martin stock, plus 37% in 2022. Northrop Grumman, plus 42%. Raytheon, plus 28%. War is profitable, and space war would be the most profitable conflict in history. Companies that would benefit: SpaceX, replacement satellites, launches; Lockheed Martin, missile defense systems; Northrop Grumman, satellite manufacturing; Raytheon, cyber defense for satellites; Maxar, spy satellite imagery.
Defense contractors' stock prices would explode. The insurance and reinsurance catastrophe. Here's something nobody's talking about. Who insures satellites? A single commercial satellite costs $200 to $500 million. Insurance premiums are already 2 to 5% of satellite value annually. In a conflict, satellite insurance market collapses. Premiums skyrocket to 20 to 50%. Many satellites become uninsurable. Companies can't afford to launch. Space economy contracts. Munich Re, Swiss Re, Lloyd's of London would face catastrophic losses, potentially triggering a financial crisis in the insurance sector.
Let's talk about how SpaceX is printing money from the space war economy. Revenue streams. Commercial launches, $3 billion. Starlink consumer internet, $4.2 billion. Government military contracts, $2+ billion, and growing. Valuation trajectory. 2020, $46 billion. 2022, $127 billion. 2024,
Elon's net worth from SpaceX alone, $70 billion. And the Pentagon is essentially subsidizing this through contracts. Spy satellite constellation, $1.8 billion. National security space launch, $5.6 billion. Classified programs, unknown billions. SpaceX has a monopoly on cheap, reliable space access, and they're leveraging it for maximum profit.
The traditional defense giants. Lockheed Martin. Space revenue, $3.2 billion, 2023. Major contracts, GPS-3 satellites, missile warning systems. Stock up 89% since 2020. Northrop Grumman. Acquired Orbital ATK, satellite maker, for $9.2 billion. Space revenue, $2.8 billion. Building next-gen OPIR constellation.
Boeing, struggling in commercial aviation, pivoting heavily into military space. Wideband Global Satcom, $1.2 billion contract. Raytheon, focus, satellite communications and cyber defense. Silent Barker satellite program, monitoring enemy satellites. Revenue, $1.7 billion from space systems.
The new space startups making bank. Planet Labs, $1.5 billion valuation. 200+ Earth imaging satellites. Contracts with NGA, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Daily imagery of entire Earth. Rocket Lab, $1.8 billion valuation. Small satellite launches, building reconnaissance satellites, targeting military customers. Palantir, $65 billion valuation. Not a space company, but processes all satellite intelligence data. AI for military targeting from space imagery. Stock up 380% in 2023-2024.
Who's positioned for the next decade? If you're thinking about exposure to the military space economy, safe bets, established. Lockheed Martin, LMT. Northrop Grumman, NOC. L3 Harris Technologies, LHX. High growth, riskier. Rocket Lab, RKLB. Planet Labs, PL. Redwire Space, RDW. Indirect Plays, Palantir, processes satellite data. NVIDIA, AI chips for satellite processing.
The Kessler Syndrome nightmare. Here's the scariest economic scenario. If a major space war breaks out and countries start blowing up satellites, you get what's called Kessler Syndrome, a chain reaction where debris hits other satellites, creating more debris, which hits more satellites. End result, low Earth orbit becomes unusable for decades.
Economic impact. No more Starlink. Internet for billions gone. No more GPS. No more satellite TV. No more weather satellites. Can't predict hurricanes. No more spy satellites. Military blind. Space industry collapses. $2 trillion to $0. This would be an economic catastrophe on par with a global nuclear war without the radiation.
The single point of failure risk. Modern economy has zero redundancy in space infrastructure. One GPS constellation, vulnerable. One communication satellite network per company, vulnerable. One set of spy satellites, vulnerable. We've built a $100 trillion global economy on space infrastructure that could be destroyed in hours, and there's no backup plan.
What this means for your portfolio. If you own tech stocks, rely on satellites for data. Logistics companies, GPS dependent. Agriculture stocks, precision farming needs GPS. Financial services need GPS for transaction timing. You have space war risk exposure, and you probably don't even know it. Hedging strategies. Some defense stock exposure. Gold, classic safe haven. Companies with terrestrial infrastructure, fiber optic over satellite. Cash reserves for market crashes.
The bottom line, space war has already begun. It's just not the Hollywood version. Every day, cyber attacks on satellites, GPS jamming and spoofing, laser attacks temporarily blinding spy satellites, close encounters between military satellites.
And the economics are staggering. $29.4 billion U.S. Space Force budget, $12 to $15 billion China space military budget, $2 trillion space economy by 2035, trillions at risk if space infrastructure fails.
The companies profiting, SpaceX, defense contractors, stock prices up 30 to 40%. AI companies processing satellite data. Insurance companies, until they collapse. The risks to you. Portfolio exposure through tech stocks. Economic collapse if GPS fails, $1 billion per day losses. Inflation from supply chain disruptions. Financial crisis from insurance failures. What you should do. Understand your space exposure. Check your portfolio. Consider some defense stock allocation, 5 to 10%. Diversify away from satellite-dependent companies. Build cash reserves for volatility. Long term, watch for escalation signs, satellite attacks, diplomatic breakdowns. Monitor defense budget increases. More contracts equals more profits. Follow SpaceX and competitors. They're building the infrastructure. Stay informed about space policy and treaties. The space war economy is here. The question is, are you positioned for it? If this video opened your eyes to the massive economic story happening in space right now, hit that like button. This is the kind of analysis you won't get from mainstream financial media, because they're too focused on quarterly earnings to see the trillion-dollar shift happening above our heads. Subscribe to Capital and Power for more deep dives into how geopolitics, technology, and finance intersect. We follow the money, so you don't have to. Now here's my question. Do you think space war will go kinetic, missiles and explosions, in the next 10 years? Comment hot war if you think we'll see actual weapons used, or Cold War if you think it stays cyber or jamming. I want to see what this community thinks.
Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay positioned, and I'll see you in the next video, where we're breaking down exactly how AI is being weaponized by militaries and which companies are making billions from it. Peace.